Hey guys, welcome back to the next challenger. You're about to watch part 2. If you have not seen part 1, make sure you click that link up in the top corner. Other than that, let's get going. If you're going to talk about freezing people to just stop them in their tracks or just be disruptive, I think Ninetales is the person you go with. I've used every combination of Ninetales that you could possibly think of. My personal favorite is Blizzard and Avalanche, just because you can stun somebody straight into their tracks and not allow them to move, and then they're frozen for even longer after that. And if you have a good teammate with you, I think that Ninetales is just extremely good at what Ninetales is good at.
I can agree.
I think we both agree that extremely good. It's a
Yeah,
good category for Ninetales. The amount of damage that Ninetales can put out with the amount of crowd control for team fights, plus that ultimate is just get out of the circle or you're gonna die. Like
Or be frozen, and then the next hit you take, you are going to die then. So,
exactly.
type 1. Anything to add, not?
I honestly can't really add much more to that. It's just everything you all have said. I completely agree with. Just overall crowd control is amazing. Pair it up with a good teammate, like for example the Mamoswine. You do that, you have constant crowd control, and you win. If you want to be real toxic, throw in the Slowbro, and your enemy's going to be raging before the game's over.
I would like to go straight support for that Wigglytuff now. Big Shoes, I think this is your category.
So out of all the supports, Wigglytuff can do really well, but I think just for the sake of a little bit of arguing, I want to put her in the not so good tier. As a support, what does she bring that any of the other supports do better?
For the fact of Sing, you're going to stop somebody straight in their tracks. I think Mr. Mime has a better case for that. You could put walls up behind people. You could shove them into the wall and stun them for just as long as Wigglytuff does the Sing. As for the damage output, I would almost rather take Pound with Blissey versus the double slap for Wigglytuff. And then there's more HP with the Blissey too. I totally agree with you on that part.
I can honestly agree with where the placement is. Based off of just like the main goal where it says it's supposed to be a support, it just overall does not have anything. It doesn't even heal. The only thing it really has going for it is Sing. I mean, but even then, the Sing doesn't really do much. You knock them out, they can get out of it quite easily. If you try to use that, by the time the Sing's over, you haven't really completed anything other than just stalling them out. Just like what he said before, damage output's not good. There's just no heal coming from it. Overall, the Wigglytuff's just kind of in a very bad position overall. I feel like it would have been better maybe as a defender than a support.
I agree.
That might be why it's green on my screen, but we're going to skip over that part. That's not that big of a deal. You know what? That God tier is looking fairly empty. Let's talk about Venusaur. And I'm just going to stick it straight up there. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to try to pull it down. If anybody has a good argument, we might consider it. But, dude, Pedal Dance? Ugh. What can you say? What can you say?
You can't.
When you can chase down any single Mon in the entire game because they're low health and you know that your next Giga Drain is going to kill them, it's like watching Friday the 13th with Jason. You just know they're going to catch up. Like, it doesn't matter. That person's going to die.
Personally, I only have one thing to say about Venusaur. I hate you all who ever play him.
Jesus.
It's almost not fair. Let's just put it that way. It's not fair. If there's a nerf that comes out to Venusaur soon, I'm not even going to be mad. I've already got my percentage as high as I'm probably going to ever see on Venusaur for a win. There's nothing else to say other than this thing is just a monster. Let's go for Blastoise now, because I like Blastoise, but I'm not going to talk about it because I think this is type 1 territory.
Personally, actually, I'm not the biggest fan of Blastoise. I want to place him in very low tier, extremely good, for the simple fact, his defense is really good. His special attack is phenomenal for being a defender. I mean, just the fact that you can use a Hydro Pump, then get your Rapid Spin back, it reduces the Hydro Pump back to 1. You're dealing out so much damage from that alone, and then if you get his ult at the same time, you've just got a shield automatically. to the point like every damage you've done, he's already gotten it back, and you have no way to restore that. So I just feel like he's overpowered and he's actually been categorized in the wrong area.
Well, I think that's justifiable amongst all of the Kanto starters. If you're going to go for the wrong area, I think that Venusaur would have made an extremely good defender. I think that Blastoise would have made an extremely good all-arounder, and I think Charizard was just made for the attacking role. So if we're going to talk about that, that's a whole nother story, but I totally agree with you. I just think that all three of these Mons were completely thrown into a bad category to begin with, and that's why each one of them are currently going through a weird time in Pokemon Unite.
I have a collective of 1 game on Blastoise, so I'm not the expert here.
What do you run, Type 1? How do you run that?
I like to run Focus Sash or Focus Ban, so that way he has that extra health in case his health does get kind of low. Because when he starts off as being a Squirtle and Wartortle, he doesn't have the best attack overall and best health pool. Other than that, I like to run either Choice Specs or Wise Glasses for that extra boost in attack. And then for the simple fact, he does get his ult quite a bit. I can sometimes pop off 3 to 4 ults on a Blastoise, which I think is ridiculous overall for a defender. Just that extra buddy barrier to give the shield to you and then your next closest teammate that has a low health pool. It just helps build the tankiness and keep the fight going.
I actually agree with you fully there. I think there's an argument to be made to be upper extremely good just because of the amount of times you can use your Unite move, but I'm going to keep it where you recommended just because I do think that there are Mons that outclass it super hard on 1v1s. What about Pikachu?
Dog water.
Big shoes?
I'm joking.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, though, we can talk about that. You need dog water just for the fact that he doesn't have his evolution.
Big facts. First of all, you're going to give Alolan Ninetales spotlight here, and you're not going to give it an Alolan Raichu form. Wouldn't that be so cool to see it surfing across the map? But
Oh, yeah.
But be that as it may, this game decided, the developers of this game just decided that apparently a mascot was more important than a fun character. I think that there is a strong case for Pikachu and Dog Water if you are behind in the match. If you are underleveled by a single level, this Mon becomes Dog Water instantly. But if you're equal in level or even higher, I think there's a case to be made for not so good / good.
I can agree with you on the not so good. My personal opinion, he's Dog Water. Just from how much I play.
High end.
The not so good I can.
Bro.
High-end
For
dog
sure,
water.
high-end.
Is this high-end dog
I'd
water
rather
that
play-
you would drink?
Excuse me, sir. Welcome to share dog water here. Would you like the high-end dog water?
I would like the top shelf dog water if you could, please. On the rocks.
That'll be 1 Pikachu, please.
What you got, Big Shoes?
I mean, I still stand, yeah, high-end dog water. Only because, like, his early game's really good. He's got a lot of really early game skills, like Electro Web, I think is really solid. The fact that he loses, like, his skills.
So what you're telling me, from what I'm gathering, is if Electro Web was his second choice of move after, like, Electro Ball, like, let's say you got Electro Ball first, and then it goes, oh, okay, well, now you can upgrade to Electro Web, and it slows down people for X amount of seconds, you would pick it better than you would for what it is now?
Even if they swapped those two and it lost its snare effect and it only slowed, yeah, I would think it would go up a couple, maybe even a couple tiers, because the CC in this game is pretty important.
I think we're losing out a little bit on some of these speedsters. I still got 3 down here. So why don't we start with the worst one first, in my opinion. We're going to go with Gengar. What do you guys think?
Not very good. Or not so good.
Yeah,
Personally, I just see him basically, if you don't run him as a jungle, which is basically what he's supposed to be, you're really going to struggle throughout the entire game until he becomes a Gengar. And even then, by the time he does become one, if you're still under leveled, you just have no way of coming back from that. You don't have enough farm to do it. You have to score the points. His moveset's very good. I just don't like the fact on how glass he is. You basically just have to hit him like once or twice on a good Mon and he's over with.
I have to agree with Type 1D. He's in the not so good category right now at least compared to the other speedsters anyway.
I agree with him on that, because if we're going based off of like what they're supposed to do, if he does not do his jungle, you just won't do well. I can agree. And then there's also like which move pool to use with him, because if you don't use the right one, you've already ruined it for the game.
Well, if you look at the bottom of the screen right now, who we have left, I can't imagine there would be too much God tier up in here. I see 1 or 2 that I think have a good shining spot at it, but I'm going to leave those for later. I would rather sit here and talk about Clefable. Nope, you don't exist in the game. How about Eldegoss?
Shoes and I kind of talked about this a minute ago. It's kind of hard and to put up for debate because none of us have really played him. But based on the support, he's more utility compared to Blissey. Hands down, you could put them hand in hand when it comes to extremely good. If you have the right Eldegoss and they put the right utility, they can help you move faster, they can slow down your enemies, they can even help boost your defense. But when it comes to healing, I feel like the Blissey might have the upper hand in here, so I would personally place it in very high good or very low extremely good.
I do have one argument to make here. While none of us have actually played Eldegoss, I wanna throw it out into your knowledge banks here that we have actually played against several Eldegosses. I don't know if you guys have ever actually paid attention, but when we play up against an Eldegoss, our win percentage actually decreases to about 45% if my math is correct. Now, I think this is mostly based off of what set they run. I have never really seen that much Leaf Tornado. Most of the time they go for Pollen Puff. And then, of course, Cotton Guard. If you're not running Cotton Guard, you're not running Eldegoss. I think there's so much, and we have to compare these Pokemon for what they are, and that's the really crappy part here. We're not actually doing just supports, and we're not actually doing just all-arounders. We're looking at Eldegoss as specifically a support character, and with the amount of defense that it does for the team, or adds to each Mon individually that it lanes with or whatever, when it comes down to Zapdos, what Cotton Guard does for the team, you could totally win a team fight if you're all attackers with an Eldegoss against a randomized team just because of that Cotton Guard lifting up your team spirit. I'm making an argument for high tier / middle tier extremely good just because of the fact that Eldegoss does well what Eldegoss is supposed to do.
Yeah, I was gonna put him in the extremely good category too, just off the simple fact I've seen what other Eldegosses can do. I'd like to put some time into it and really understand why and how.
I agree with you there. I mean, I hear a lot of other Poketubers call him like the cleric fighter. Basically, like he can tank, but he's just very good. I personally would like to learn him as well. I kind of want to have a character to play in each category, and I'm kind of leaning towards him.
You know, I'm sitting here looking at this list, and I'm actually liking the way that it's going. You guys realize that each one of our mains that we play is either in God tier or extremely good.
And that's some biased, I think.
Yeah, there's a little bit of bias to this list. There are going to be people out there that play Gengar that I think they would make arguments that it's extremely good, versus we absolutely never touch Gengar. So of course we're never going to put it above not so good. But the unbiased of the Eldegoss, I really tried to throw out genuine thoughts about Eldegoss because I don't want to see this list go straight bias, but I don't know, man. I'm looking at this list and I'm like, oh wow, we play a lot of these guys. All right, Type 1D, Absol.
I'm gonna be super biased here on it. I want to put in extremely good, but I can't because I know on how it is played. It actually, at its best role, it would be in good, and I would probably put it in the mid tier on good.
I would say actually low end good. Passive, being able to deal bonus damage behind enemies is meh at the best. And once an Absol is in fighting, I don't see a way for it to get out. So
it actually has a whole bunch of dash moves that it utilizes that it can use to get away. Eject button is just insanely good in this game. If we had a items list like this, it would be exactly in God tier for eject button because I don't think I see hardly anybody ever use anything but that. However, I will justify a case for not so good, and I'm going to give you one good reason why. I think it belongs above Gengar, but I think it's not so good. The health pool on this thing is absurdly bad. It is horrible. It is possibly one of the worst speedsters. Actually, yeah, no, I still put Gengar below, but its health pool is just really bad. Its behind the back attack is absolutely situational. I've never actually seen an Absol solo any one of the objectives. It is possibly a better laner than a jungler. And if we're talking about what Pokemon are supposed to be good at, speedsters are supposed to be good junglers, and I just don't see the argument case for Absol. I'm going to get outvoted here, but I just don't see the case for it.
I can understand where you're placing it, but I would, if you put it in the not so good, I would honestly put it above Garchomp at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you run an Absol, if you don't run the Scope Lens and Razor Claw, you can immediately put it in dog water. I can give you that hands down. But as long as you know what you're doing, because Absol is one of those more technical characters, you could easily put him in the good category. But since he's such limited to that item pool and it only leaves you with maybe one held item to switch to something else, I would move him to the not so good area.
So if I put him at the very top of the not so good, very bottom of the good category, we're all in agreement?
Yeah.
As
Okay.
much as it pains me, yes.
All right. I would like to go for another all-arounder here. I'm actually looking at Machamp because I went from 4 games with Machamp to 11, and I'm currently at 70% with Machamp. Now, most of those are going to be quick matches, but I have seen success with Machamp when you know what you're doing with it. Once you get it figured out, it has been brutal to fight against. Its ult ability is very technical as well. I think that hit or miss, if you miss, it's just a waste. But then again, so is Talonflames. Now, its bulk up at the beginning of the game makes it extremely good early game. You become incredibly tanky. You become incredibly offensive. I think with the right items list, you could put it for an argument of the lowest part of extremely good or the highest part of good.
Yeah, I like that. At the top of good is where it probably should stay. I don't think he's extremely good, but he does have some lockdown moves, and he does deal decent enough damage.
Type 1.
I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you. I like where he's at in the good category, but I would move him further down towards maybe underneath Mr. Mime for the simple fact. Yes, he is very good overall as an all-rounder, but it's the simple fact he takes so long to get like decent move pulls, and he does have a wide variety of items you can put into him, but he really just does not have that output he needs as an all-rounder. Yes, his damage is good, but he's very soft when it comes to hits. He can't really last long. He can take out a few, like, you have to basically use your ult if you want to stand a chance if you're fighting more than one person normally, especially if, say, you have a Lucario or a Snorlax. Otherwise, you're really going to struggle with him.
Counter offer. I did what you said, and I put him straight behind Mr. Mime. However, I would like to counter offer because of one move specifically. I think Submission brings him back up in front of Sylveon. Just because of the fact that you can move people in and out, you could do whatever you want to do. He still has a push. You could throw him straight into your teammates, and they could just finish it off if you don't feel like it. You know what I mean? When played properly, I think he gains those extra 2 spots just because of the fact that he is able to make people feel uncomfortable.
Fair enough. I can give you that.
Okay.
It's like what you said, though. It's the key word if you play him properly.
Yeah. As long as you're cool with that trade. I don't see how he's worse than Sylveon. Now, if we moved Mime in front of Sylveon, then maybe you can make it a counter argument backwards to where Machamp is worse than Mr. Mime, but I just don't see Sylveon being better than Machamp. I don't see it.
Okay.
All right. Final Speedster. Zeraora. I'm putting Zeraora. I want to be a jerk and just put him in dog water. I hate this guy. I absolutely hate Zeraora. I want to put him in dog water. He's a cat, but I want to put him in dog water.
The best category I can put him in would be mid to low tier in good. He does have some very overpowered abilities and moves, but he is not able to really solo as a jungle when it comes to like help ganking. If you don't have a teammate to push with you, he really overall doesn't help. Like, I mean, as long as you have the discharge, you have a better chance. But without the all or having a very low health pool for him, he just is not good overall. I mean, this might just be biased or personal opinion, but my win rate is actually quite low for him, even though people love him. As a speedster, I would much rather go with Absol for a jungle than a Zera any day.
Big Shoes, I have a very specific question for you, and this is possibly going to answer where Zeraora should be. When you're looking at a team and we don't have Zeraora, but they do, what do you think our win chances are?
33%. Like, it's not good.
It's not good.
Zeraora. Now, I wouldn't say I'd put him as high as extremely good, but I do think he belongs at the very top of good. For the simple fact that his, not discharge, I do like that he gets a shield for that and it's AoE damage. But if you time his passive with wild charge, I've seen him kill 3 people. Or 3 mons. Like, he will take on 3 mons by himself.
But his wild charge is very difficult to use and it's very situational. For the simple fact that...
Why did I know this was going to start something?
You have to, like, use discharge or his other ability to go ahead and use that. I would much prefer Spark because instead of... or discharge instead of that. I'd prefer the AoE because say that you're running a Fluffy Tail or something, you can take out everything in the area, including wild Pokemon, all of that. You're doing consistent damage, and then run that discharge with, say, maybe a Spark. You can constantly keep going back in for those hits, and they can't do anything. You're just melting them. And if you have an eject button or they try to eject button, they can't get away.
You can't get away with wild charge either. Because what he does, discharge is nice because it gives you the shield, but you can argue that wild charge pops him off the map. You can't interact with him as he's hitting you.
I actually agree with that. I agree with that hard.
Yeah, but then we can push down the line, like, say that you're defending your goal. You're still healing while you're taking that discharge, so they can't score. The wild charge, I mean, you're popping them off the map. It's like you said, they still have a chance.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and we can't wait to see you again for the next challenger.